From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open Line on Wednesday night. I'm Ben Hall. Very good show tonight. We're talking all about health insurance and specifically the Affordable Care Act. There's some things you need to know. It's certainly tax season. We can talk about some of those things. But there is a new enrollment period that is about to begin that affects a lot of people. And so we want to give you all that information. When it comes to your health insurance, this is a chance for you to call in with questions that you may have. So we're happy to have with us Mary Hunt and Sharon Barker. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
You are with Family and Children's Service, a nonprofit, and we can talk more about what that is later, but most importantly to us, you know all about this, so we appreciate that. What are some of the biggest questions you're getting when it comes to the Affordable Care Act and the sign-up periods, the enrollment? What are some of the big questions, each one? And I'll start with you.
I think the biggest question right now is it too late for me to still sign up this year?
Mm-hmm. And what is the answer to that?
Well, it depends on a lot of things. So hopefully not, maybe not. There is an opportunity for a lot of folks to continue to sign up throughout this year. Coming up, the biggest one is the new special enrollment period that was just announced. That will begin March 15th, and that will run through April 30th. So that's going to be the biggest opportunity for folks to still sign up this year. It affects people who are filing their taxes, and they're just now finding out when they file their taxes that they will in fact owe a penalty for not having insurance during 2014.
There was a penalty that was assessed last year, but it was a smaller penalty, right? Now there's a larger penalty. Is that right?
This is actually the first year that they're paying the penalty.
Okay.
It's assessed based on not having insurance in 2014, the previous year. But this is the first time they're actually paying it.
Okay.
So they may just be realizing, hey, I really am going to have to pay this penalty, unfortunately. And it is much lower this year than it will be next year. So that's why this special enrollment period will give them the opportunity to say, hey, you did have to pay the penalty this year, but we're giving you a second chance. You can enroll during this special enrollment period to avoid paying such a large penalty next year.
And before I move to the next, are there a lot of people in that situation? I mean, we have talked about this for so long. Are there a lot of people who really are filling out their income taxes, they don't realize, wow, I'm going to have to pay a penalty? Is this hitting a lot of people?
Well, I do think that a lot of people are realizing that last year when we were talking to people about enrolling and letting them know that if you don't, you'll get a penalty, and we would say $95 or 1% of your taxable income, whichever is greater. A lot of people selectively heard the $95 because that's a concrete number.
Right.
But actually that it could be larger because 1% of your taxable income can be larger than the $95. So when they go this year and they go, well, I was told $95, and it wasn't $95. And so, yeah, a lot of people are learning that, you know what, that was a real issue and repercussion for not getting enrolled.
Last year was 95 or 1%. It goes up.
It goes up.
It's going to be 2% next year.
Or 325.
Or 325.
Or 325. So the penalty part of this begins to really kick in.
This is kind of the last chance to get coverage to avoid those steeper penalties next year.
So looking at numbers and the number of people signing up, you can compare this year to last year. Let's talk about Tennessee. How are we doing? How do we do in Tennessee?
So in Tennessee last year, new enrollments were about 150,000, Mary? 150,000, and this year with new enrollments and renewals is about 229,000, and in Nashville about 69,000.
So is that, do people feel good about that, or do you think it should be higher, or are you surprised it's so high, or what about that level?
It seems about right, about what was anticipated. More people signed up this year. That's a great thing. A lot of people who signed up last year kept their coverage, so that's a great thing. So it's definitely, there are still some more people out there who are eligible, who haven't signed up yet, and those are again some people that we're hoping to capture through this special enrollment period that's coming up.
Do you have any idea the numbers of that? How many people out there may really benefit from this special enrollment period? They will avoid paying this penalty, and they can get health insurance. I mean, do you have any idea how many people we're talking about?
It would be really difficult to come up with a number for that because there's several criteria they have to meet in order to qualify for this special enrollment period. They have to attest that they did pay the fine this year and that they didn't know about it until they filed their taxes. But there are many people who could benefit from it.
And then, all right, so there are people out there watching. What are the stories you hear? You are hearing stories every day from people. Let's just talk about some of the stories you're hearing, people who could benefit from this, and maybe people where this isn't going to quite, it's not going to help them. But and you can each take an example there. But what are some of the stories you're hearing? Just if you were going to throw out some, I guess, examples of questions that you are getting on the phones every day, and some of the stories behind those questions. What, generically speaking, what do you think?
I think that it's hard for us to imagine because we really live, eat, and breathe this stuff. And it is in the media quite frequently.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who either didn't realize that this program could benefit them, or like Sharon said, they didn't realize the penalty was going to be as steep as it is, or that they would actually have to pay the penalty. So there are people who tried to maybe sign up at the last minute, for whatever reason got delayed, or they decided, well, it's probably too late anyway, and they haven't. So
You're hearing a lot of that kind of story. What about you? What kind of stories are kind of sticking with you that you're hearing?
You know, the ones that I remember are all of the people that I encountered last year that I specifically explained about the importance of enrolling to avoid the penalty, and so many of those people, some of them call now when they realize that it's real. They call now wanting to know, can I avoid it? What can I do? And I call this grace period right now that we're fortunate to be in with this new tax season, and I'm able to, put them at ease that, you know what, you didn't do it last year, but
you get one more chance.
You have a grace period now. And so I think this will be a lesson for those that thought they could, avoid it last year, and they won't avoid it next year, I think.
This has been in the news a lot. Another thing that's been in the news a lot was Insure Tennessee. Insure Tennessee failed. That would have expanded Medicaid. It would. How would that have impacted what you all do, and maybe some of the stories you're hearing every day? Talk a little bit about that. That failed, and where does that leave us?
It would impact the work that we do every day dramatically. When we have events, many people who show up at the events are in the coverage gap. Many people who call our hotline are in the coverage gap. Every time we've been on OpenLine, I would say a good percentage of our callers have been those in the coverage gap. So it's a big issue because a lot of people in the coverage gap really desperately need health insurance. So that's why they're coming out to us for information. So it would hugely affect that.
And talk a little bit more again about the coverage gap.
So the coverage gap, the group of people that would be able to be eligible and benefit from Insure Tennessee are really those who their income is too low for them to qualify for the premium tax credit, which is the subsidy through the marketplace that makes the Affordable Care Act insurance affordable for many people. And in order to qualify for that, your income has to be above the poverty line for your household size. So individuals whose income is below that number, they don't necessarily automatically qualify for TennCare. And that's something that many people don't realize. In order to qualify for TennCare, you not only have to meet the income requirements, you also have to meet a set of categorical requirements. And most commonly that is having minor children, being a pregnant woman, certain folks with disabilities. And so if you're a single adult whose children are grown, or you don't have children, and you just have low income, then you may not qualify. If you work minimum wage and you work less than 30 hours a week, you may be working, but your income is not going to be high enough to qualify you for the tax credits through the marketplace. So that's a really tough conversation to have with people because it just doesn't really make sense. They're very confused. So you're saying that I make too little to benefit? Because typically, you know, the less you make, the more you benefit from programs.
Right.
So that's a tough conversation, and it would definitely be great not to have that conversation and to have some hope to give people. So when we're getting calls like that, we continue to let them know that Insure Tennessee, although it did fail in the Senate committee, there is some hope that it will come back in the general session. So we're encouraging people to call their representatives and let them know that they support it and they would benefit from it.
And are you hearing the same thing? What are some of the things you're hearing when it comes to that coverage gap? Because that has impacted a lot of the people that have called into this show in the past.
Absolutely. I just worked with a young lady this past Friday, and she was very distraught because she was a young lady just trying to make it, but she did not fit a category. She didn't have any small children. She wasn't disabled. She wasn't pregnant, but she did not make 100%. She was under 100% of the federal poverty level, and she really
what
needed some insurance.
What is the income in that? When you say 100% of the federal poverty level, what
so
is a
for
number?
a family of one, that would look like $11,700 a year.
Okay.
And she didn't make that. And a lot of those are students that are aged out of their parents' insurance.
All right. Well, this is a great opportunity for you to call in if you have questions about the Affordable Care Act, about the new open enrollment period, about tax implications, whatever you want to question. This is an opportunity to call in, get free advice. We're going to take a break. There's the number, 737+, 737-7587. If you're on the line, hold on. If you want to call, there's some lines open. Be back right after this.